Hello students, welcome to this next video lecture. So we were discussing about the communicative dispositions in last lecture, okay, and we have come to this point, that is communication accommodation. Actually our point is that communication style. Before that we have observed the communication rules, okay, and the main point that we are looking for, that is communication styles, okay. So in this communication style we have come to the communication accommodation theory, and in previous video lecture we observed that communicative disposition, that is nature. Disposition means nature, our behavior. So in that previous slide we observed that communicative and social competence and skills, these three factors. Again we also observed conversational sensitivity, okay. So what is that conversational sensitivity? Conversational sensitivity that taps an individual's ability to assess and respond to various communicative challenges. And the factors which are involved in the conversational sensitivity are detecting meaning, conversational memory, conversational alternatives. Let me go to the previous slide. Again, conversational alternatives, conversational imagination, conversational enjoyment, interpretation, perceiving, affinity. Okay, these things we have already discussed, but today's lecture we are going to study this theory, that is communication accommodation theory. So what is the communication accommodation theory? So this is another very important concept for this class. This theory was proposed by Professor H. Gillis in University of California, Santa Barbara in 1971. And in his attempt to find out why people switched the manners in which they spoke to different people and in different situations, he wanted to find out why and how do we adapt. And he says the theory specifies how two people from alternate cultures interact in ways that reflect their personal goals as well as cultural identity. So how do we interact? How are our interpersonal differences highlighted? How do we accept the different backgrounds that we are coming from? So the concept here are convergence and divergence. Okay, again two ways. See here the concept which covers 2 points, that is convergence and divergence. Again two ways in which we adopt our communication, okay, in which we adopt our communication are, the first one is convergence. Adapting one's, what is that convergence? It means adapting one's speech style to match that of others with whom the communicator wants to identify, okay, that is called here convergence. Let me repeat here: adapting one's speech style to match that of others with whom the communicator wants to identify. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in Bengal, understand Bengali, you have to do it. When in Himachal, learn to follow the different accents. People who speak to you in Hindi, when you go to districts like Kangranal, they will speak in a mixed of Hindi, Dori and Punjabi. And we have to, three tones are heard to expect these different signals coming from our environment, okay. So whenever we go for a new job, or whenever we are living in residing in different countries or different societies, there we observe different accents, different tones while communication or while communicating with each other. So here the example that Aradhana Malik has mentioned here, and she once she used to live in Ahmedabad many years ago for about 3 years, and again she was Punjabi, and again she used to listen to Gujarati language, and she practiced that Gujarati language, okay. And whenever once she was traveling by rickshaw, and she has said that even the words she has mentioned in this video lecture also, in this, let me give that example. So the words for left and right are Dabi and Jamani, okay, Dabi and Jamani. So her home, Aradhana Malik, that is a tutor of this subject, her home was in Himachal and her family lives in Himachal. So what happened would be in when she was in Ahmedabad, she was using an auto rickshaw. She would use these terms. Again, she didn't learn Gujarati, but she somehow we say our accents starts matching that of people we use put some terms. So when if the auto walas understood, the auto rickshaw driver understood right and left, she would use the local terms to direct him where she wanted to go. Okay, and we use also these terms. Suppose you are residing in Kolhapur or Mumbai, we use some words as a terminology that is widely used in that locality, okay, or in that society. So she would say, which means go left to Dabi. She used to say Dabi or Jamni, which means go left or go right. And once it also happened that she went from Ahmedabad to Delhi, and she used to some same terms. So why? Because she was so used to using these things, and the auto rickshaw driver said, what did you just say? And she realized that unknowingly she had adapted to their way of speaking. Again, this one small example may not be the right fit here. So we start adapting the accent of people, we start using some local terms, we start understanding the connotative meaning of these terms, that is called here convergence. Okay, means we adopt another speaker's style of communication. We adopt some terminology, local terminology, where we are not the permanent person residing in that locality, but we observe that we adopt that terminology. Okay, for example, if Bihari people or UP people are residing in our Maharashtra, they use some local words as it is, and from the perspective of their knowledge, it is called here convergence. So here again, mutual and non-mutual accommodation, depending on their we are in the communication situation. Mutual accommodation is I will adopt a little bit your style. Mutual accommodation is that I will I will adopt a little bit your style, and you adopt a little bit to my style. So when you working closely together, you will start understanding what each other person is and what the other person is saying. So you will start using terms, you will start talking in manners that the other person talks in. When on the other hand, when it is you know top to bottom, when it is when it is symmetrical interaction, which means one person is top and another person is little bit low. So I think we talked about in the class on communication rules. We have non-mutual accommodation, which means that the person who is up there in the symmetry is under no gun or have no compulsion to adopt this style of the person here. The person has to adapt to the style of the person who is up. The person has to learn to understand this style. Okay, means there is a hierarchy in the business sector or in our office, means senior, then there are another higher authority. Okay, then there are founder members, then life members of that body, that organization, and at last the lower level we observe the clerk or peons, then office boys. Okay, so clerk, office boys or peons is not necessary to adopt the communication style of higher authorities, and it happens casually or generally. So but the person doesn't necessarily need to, this person up here doesn't need to adopt the style person at the lower level. On the other hand, the person here feels compelled to start accepting, start understanding, start using the style of the person above, then hierarchy, so that they can fit in. So that is non-mutual accommodation, one-sided relationship or one-sided attempt to accommodate to this person, and they came at same level. The whole point about communication accommodation is that both people try and align their comfort zones in their interaction in such a manner that they start understanding each other. Okay, and another example I will give here. Uh, when boss and clerks when come on the same level, then communication will happen properly. Okay, so in that we have convergence, and within convergence we have mutual and non-mutual convergence or accommodation. So divergence on the other hand is speaking in a way that emphasizes one's different. I go to a different place, I refuse to let people in Bengal pronounce my name in Bengali. Again, you sometimes visit another country or another city, okay, and sometimes your surnames are pronounced differently because it is their pronunciation style. Okay, so suppose here our example is also given. Another example is that Malik. This Malik is a surname of the tutor of this particular syllabus, Aradhana Malik, Professor Aradhana Malik, and she her surname was pronounced differently as Malik, where in Bengali, and when she hear that, she feel comfortable, and she has to keep reminding them it is Punjabi Malik, it is not Bengali Malik. So she used to say, she used to request to the communicator, don't call her Malik, it is Malik, and then they will say, still say, oh madam Malik, and she would like no, not double. Okay, so but again, you know, she was highlighting her difference. She was saying that she is different. They will say, they will pronounce the word Aradhana differently, and she could wish, don't do that. Okay, so it happens, our surnames or our first names are pronounced differently in our country or in different countries. Okay, so nothing wrong with that, but it is insisted that if I can learn to pronounce their names, they can also learn to pronounce my names properly. Okay, so eventually your name became the closest they came to who is Aradhana, which is simpler to pronounce. But again, she highlighted the differences. So she said she is here. She is accepting your style, your communication accent. So she was totally out of yours. These things she doesn't have to change her ways to fit in. Okay, she even used to request accept her the way she is, and she will accept you the way she is. That is divergence. So we will fit in, we will somehow we will somehow brush against each other, we will find the common point of contact, we will get in touch, we will connect, but at the same time my individuality, your individuality is different. Okay, so these differences and your differences will be respected and they will be appear, and we will build on these differences and we will find common ground, that is divergence. Okay, we will find the comfort zones despite these differences, that is divergence, or we will minimize the differences so that we can align our comfort zones with each other, that is convergence. What is that convergence? We align our comfort zones with each other, that is convergence. And because of some conditions, because of some different situations, we face the divergence. Okay, so these are the two aspects of communication theory. Okay, what is that? Communication accommodation theory. So next point is that dimensions of communication styles. Okay, so some dimensions of communication styles. There's Gudigunst and Ting to me in 1998, in Martin and Nakayama 2000, intercultural communication. Some dimensions of communication styles are direct and indirect. The extent to which the speakers reveal their intentions through explicit verbal communication and emphasizes low context communication. Okay, the direct communication is followed in which culture? I have talked about low and high context cultures. You decide. So direct is followed in low context cultures, or direct communication style is preferred by people low context cultures. Indirect style of communication is preferred by people in high context cultures. for an variety of reasons that have been discussed in the class on intercultural communication and will be discussed again in the classes on conflict and negotiation. So elaborate, exact and succinct refers to the quality of talk, quantity of talk that people value. That is elaborate, exact, succinct. It refers to the quantity of talk that people value. The elaborate style uses a rich expressive language, lots of ornamental words, lots of additional words, just adding on to the flavor of the conversation. That is elaborate. And you may experience such kind of language in speech competition, okay, elocution competition. So succinct values understatement, simple assertions, and silence, that is the exact opposite. So in low context cultures, the elaborate style may be preferred. Now we will say this is completely different from direct and indirect. Again, no culture is exclusively high context or low context. There are mixture of these things, but in low context cultures we are encouraged to share whatever we are feeling with the environment, so that stability can be maintained in the environment. In high context cultures, we are supposed to work through our emotions and share whatever the bare minimum possible, and supposed to understand what is going on in our mind without you having to tell me about it, and that is fine. When you are coming from such a culture, you realize you learn to read the signals over a period of time. You learn to recognize patterns in a person's behavior. We learn to figure out where we stand in relation to anyone else within the environment, and we start understanding these certain signals, and that is a succinct style of communication. Next is that exact style. The exact style emphasizes cooperative communication and sincerity, okay, as a basis for the interaction. Again, here this is somehow middle ground between elaborate and succinct. Neither too much nor too little, okay. So that is exact style of communication, okay. So question might be asked on this for objective, okay, objective question may be asked here. So next point is that personal and contextual style. We are looking for dimensions of communication style. First is the direct and indirect style, elaborate, exact, and succinct style. Then personal and contextual styles, and instrumental and affective styles. So wherever we need to talk, we will talk. Wherever we don't need to say too much, we'll stay quiet, okay. So personal and contextual styles is that different ways of addressing different people, different context. Again, I will give you an interesting example how in English the pronoun you remain you, okay. In English we use pronoun you, and that remains you, and it is you in English, it is you in Hindi, it is you, I mean, if you have higher than me in hierarchy, I still address you as you in English. If you lower than me in hierarchy, I still address you is you. That is in English language. If you I still address you as you in Hindi, tu is somebody down there, okay. Tum as peer people having same age, and aap who is somebody senior. And again, tu is considered to be very rude or disrespectful or extremely informal. The only person I am supposed to address to me may be my brother or some of the younger cousins, and that's all. And aap are the most preferred style. Again, in other Hindi languages or Sanskrit based languages, we have similar distinction, and the manner in which if I am addressing somebody is to the manner, the tone. I will use to talk to the people, the kinds of the words I will choose, the non-verbal signals will be very different from the manner I will address somebody in hierarchy. If I say aap, everything about it changes. If I am talking to my parents, the inherent understanding is they are my parents. They are elder to me. They have a lot more experience and they have authority. They can tell me to keep quiet whenever they want, and I have to keep quiet. And so, considering all those things, that is the context I am talking from. And they are my parents and I love them and I don't want them to get hurt by what I say. I don't want them to be uncomfortable about whatever I say. So what I say, how I say it, how these rules as we discussed in the first slide map out in such a situation will completely change with the situation. When I say tum, colleagues, maybe some colleagues, not all of them, some friends, some older cousins, and or some people are not very comfortable with, but the rules will be changed. When I say tu, when I go up and the other person, when I say tu, it is immediately understood somebody here will say up or will call me tum. There is no tu. So these are the extremes, and the same thing will happen. So it is hard to somebody not coming from such a culture to understand what I'm saying. But for the Indian students who hopefully will find this video useful, they will probably be able to understand it better. These things are very difficult. This is what makes teaching this course so difficult. So the lot of things that we consider as implicit, that we take for granted, becomes very difficult for us to explain. Okay, so the instrumental next style, that instrumental and affective style, that is another dimension. The instrumental is sender and goal oriented. Instrumental is sender and goal oriented. Affective is receiver and process oriented. We have talked about intercultural communication. I will leave it for you to decide which culture would prefer the instrumental style, in which culture, or in which culture would the instrumental style is very more prevalent, and in which type of culture would be effective style, affective style be more prevalent. Please take the help of these slides if you need to. Okay. So now I would like to take the liberty of sharing this very interesting paper with you. This paper is called The Protein Communicator, and it was published for the first time in September 1994 in a journal called Management Review. The author of this paper is David P. Ewing, and it is one of the favorite papers in any kind of discourse, any kind of teaching of communication. And Ewing talks about these styles in very different manner. He compares them to characters from Greek mythology. Anyway, I can go on and on, but I can see that we are running out of time. So I will quickly go through these different categories mentioned in this paper. The first one, according to Ewing, is flowery and oratorical. Okay, these styles are mentioned in this paper, that is the protein communicator. And accordingly we use such type of words. So see, this is the style that we use when we are trying to elevate the position of the person we are talking about, or when we are trying to describe something in a very positive light. And this is used festive occasions or inspiration. And this is the kind of style in which we add lots of positive inflated objectives. That is flowery or rhetorical style. Okay, then plain and straightforward. Plain and straightforward style is when we sort of straight away get to the point. It is direct, short sentences. This is the kind of style that is preferred in the international business environment. Remember, I am going to talk more about this, and we talk about written communication, but you get straight to the point, cut out the additional fields, cut out the additional conversation. That is plain and straight. For example, given here, time is money. It is a direct, straightforward statement is given. Okay, then indirect and opaque style. Write in the begging to lawyers. Write in the begging to lawyers, but the whole profession of law, I believe, rests on persuading people, rests on research, extensive research to find out what has been done, how different rules have been interpreted, what can be done to ensure justice to the people involved. And so again, it is not about not taking responsibility, but this kind of style can also be used to avoid taking responsibility. You sort of pin the blame on somebody else. We say, instead of the report should have, I should have submitted the report, or X should have submitted the report by so and so date. I don't want to know who has submitted the report. Okay, we means sometimes we blame to other persons. We legally, to avoid taking responsibility, that time such kind of style is followed some people. So I say the report should have been submitted by yesterday. I leave a way out. You decide who you should have submitted the report and what will happen to them. But I am just bringing to your notice that a report that should have been submitted yesterday has not been submitted till now. I will not tell you the names of the person who is supposed to submit it. I am leaving the way out. Personalizing or humanizing style is used. Okay, so that is indirect and apex style. So next is that personalizing or humanizing style. This style is used to stir up readers and arouse action. Okay, so this is where we start connecting with readers on a very personal level. We say, I feel your pain, I empathize, I know what you are talking about, I understand, I can feel the same thing, I was in a similar situation. That is humanizing style. And I will leave it open for you to discuss amongst yourselves which professions rest, the success of which profession rests on appropriate and optimal use of the personalized in humanizing style of communication. Next is stilted or redundant style. This is the kind of style we use when we try to numb the senses of the reader, of the person we are talking to. And again, I will take the liberty of sharing something and internal secret of the academic profession. We professors do this to numb your senses, then throw big words with you that you need to look up in dictionaries, maybe on Google. You will tell you, look, I know more than you because I know the meaning of this word. And sometimes some teachers say that you don't have much knowledge. We teachers, we know better. Such kinds of sentences or quotations you may listen in your lectures or somewhere. Okay, so these are the example. So the sort of and numb your senses, scare you into believing that we are smarter than you. Okay, if you are a student, we hope that we are at least as smart as you, if you are not smarter. But this is what we do when we want to enforce authority. This is something that you might end up doing. When you are in a position where somebody is trying to unnecessarily harass you, you need to do your homework before you start using this style. But then, if you really want to get out of the situation, you start throwing big words at people. You start telling them and the right big words. You use wrong big words and you suddenly lose their respect. See, you can scare people, you can numb their sense, you can end a conversation by using these big words to defend yourself. So next is that winding or voluminous style. It is used for brainstorming or clarifying vague thoughts. And you say, well, it is winding, how can it clarify vague thoughts? The way it can do it is that when you start going about round and round and round about something, slowly you start getting to the point. You start clipping away the unnecessary ideas, then unnecessary concepts, then the unnecessary confusions associated within concept. And this is what students do when they write their final exam papers, especially when they don't know, okay, the answer, when they don't know the answer, and they are trying to convince us that they know the answers. So what do? You sort of started a point when you start making connections, and because that I am short, you start sort of beating about the bush. Indians who know what is jalebi, I will really realize why I'll call it the jalebi style. Okay, my favorite exercise on this is to ask the student to figure out a connection between religion and quantum physics. Hmm? I don't know how many of you are pundits in both of them. You should know one more about, one less of the other. I don't know anything about any of these two things. So again, you could have the discussion, and at later stage, when you talk about writing, I will give you some exercises that you can do in class that will help you to understand these differences. We will come back to these differences when we talk about written communication. So please do not lose this slide. Okay. So communication style as see here, communication style as manifestation of personality. This is the slide we are going to study right now. We have talked about different things here. Now let us get into what again. I would like to introduce this also to you. I don't have the time to explain all of this to you, but I would like you to look this up on your own. The hexaco or perfect inventories are they have been used by device in a paper that was submitted to the annual International Communication Association conference in 2005. And in this paper, these two styles and the comparisons between these two styles have been described. It is lexical studies of communication adjectives, the dimensionality of communication styles. Okay, so in this device compares the hexago style and the perfect style. When you look at this list, hexaco is start with H. Hexaco and perfect. Perfect means precise, eloquent, rude, friendly, emotional, complex, and true. This is about the perfect style. Perfect style, communication style as a manifestation of personality. So hexaco is start with H. Go to the right bottom here. Honesty or humility. Hexaco is an already established style, so that is comparable to the truth that is expressed in a person's through a person's personality or through a person's communication. The E stands for emotionality, and that is draws parallels with emotional. The X stands for extraversion here, which draws parallel with being eloquent. A stands for agreeable, which draws parallel with friendliness here, agreeableness. C stands for consciousness here. C stands for consciousness, which draws parallels with the complex style of personality. The incivility parallel with precision. Consciousness, which draws parallel with the precision. And O stands for openness to experience, which draws parallel with the complex style of personality. The incivility is not covered in the hexaco style, and that draws parallels with rudeness. Now again, maybe at some other point later on in this class we will discuss the styles. Okay, so I will quickly move on to the implications of these styles for the business environment. There are many different styles of communication. They have been categorized differently. We'll talk about verbal styles some point. We'll talk about writing styles at some point also. One thing that I must let us move on to the factors affecting communication styles and implications for business environment, and I think we can stop there. So I can definitely give some more references about this style, but I can only cover these many. I could take full class on communication styles on. I still not be able to get through whatever is out there. So see here some factors affecting our communication style. So what affects the style that we adopt? The first one here is the context. We talk about this. We talk about cognitive style as well, how we think. how we perceive our environment, what we see in our environment affects the style that we adopt, affects the manner in which we accommodate to our surroundings, which we adapt to our surroundings. Okay, that is cognitive style. Then humor again, different ways of humors, self-directed and other directed humor can have different implications for the people in our environment. Okay, and that can in turn impact the manner in which we communicate the people. Whenever there is a joke or humor, we feel relaxed and our communication style changes. So another point is that technology can also affect our communication style. Again, one more keyword for you to look up, that Marshall McLuhan talks about the medium being the message. hmm? What we interpret for about a message depends on the medium. What we interpret for about a message depends on the medium in which we receive the message. So please look this up. Emoticons, we use emoticons to bridge the gap between written and oral communication, and I am sure people will listen to this are very familiar with that. The level of formality in technology of impacts or perceived formality about the technological communication can impact the style we use in communication. Evolving definitions, traditionally accepted communication styles are dependent on the use of technology or the transmission of a message. Traditional message through the evolving technology, and that in turn impacts the way we modify our style and how we say things, to whom and how are these rules followed. Okay, these things we use in our traditional era or technological era. Hmm? Some now see here some implications for the business environment. Some implications, the styles for the business environment. The first one here is the style and direction of organizational communication that depends upon the style we use. As communicator, the style that my boss uses will affect how I deal with my boss or how I respond to my boss. In that will in turn determine whether my organization is horizontal or vertical. So all these things change. Okay, next is entitlement. Entitlement deals with connotative meanings of words and the manner in which we use these words that afford a perceived entitlement of knowledge of the words associated, connected with the words we use. Very complicated in simple terms. All I am trying to say that since I am giving you all these complicated definitions, you will assume whether I know it or not. You will assume that I am the guru on communication. I would like to be perceived that way. On the other hand, if I make a small mistake, you will say he's just making. So when I start using the word long enough, when I start dealing with something long enough, when I start talking about something long enough, I gain a sense of perceived entitlement from the environment that is exposed to my interaction about me being some me having some authority on the discussion of such communication or such concepts. Okay, so planner client communication, which is the communication we have with our if I am planning something, my style of communication will depend on what the client wants and what the client's personality is, what about, and the styles interacting. Then sort of you people, the interpersonal relationships of forms. Some will discuss all these things in the lectures to come. So knowledge of styles affects the improvement of inter and inter-team communication, and that in turn leads to lesser conflict. That is the whole goal of discussing all this in class on international business communication. Means we are going to solve the conflict in our day-to-day communication, and this whole things rest on context. And whatever we discussed in the previous slide, we will talk about deception another time. Let us I will give you some questions to think about. The first one is, see here, I will give some questions to think about. The first one, is it possible to map the entire gamut of communication style that people adopt in different situations? Okay, my question is that, is it possible to map the entire gamut or entire circumstances of communication styles that people adapt in different situations? If yes, how can it be done? If no, why not? Think about it. List the different kinds of situations managers find themselves in where adoption of specific communication styles becomes essential for the completion of specific tasks. For example, personalizing or humanizing style in human sources, etc. The last thing I like you to think about is, in the business environment, why is it essential to ensure coherence between one's intent, choice of words, and communication style? Why am I telling you all this about communication style? So these are the things I would like you to think about, and we will meet in next class or in the next lecture. Till then, have a good day and thank you.